All right, Mr. Hayes, Dennis Hayes, representing the Reston Citizens Association. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. First off, let me say, whatever we're paying you, it's not enough. By my clock, we're pushing in on midnight, and I know this is not unusual for you along the way here. Like one of my predecessors, I also have been busy tearing up my prepared remarks to try to not bore you too badly with some of the things you've heard over and over again. And I will limit my comments mostly to multifamily housing along the way here. You know, H.L. Mencken, wise man, one of the things he said is that for every human problem, there's an easy solution. Neat, plausible, and wrong. And I think that's where we are today. And the wrong part, I think, comes in from a lot of the comments we've had from some of the more recent speakers here, is that the argument is built on the fact that the things were going to happen in the future. And it's wonderful to imagine utopias, but that doesn't necessarily get us there. It's a lot of work, a lot of cost, a lot of factors that go into this along the way. The county's website says that only 4% of households do not own a car. Now, that means 96% of households in Fairfax County have a car. 30% have more than one car, possibly something to that. So it's not possible to simply say that everybody in this county is going to be able to ride their bike to Whole Foods or hike out to the Blue Ridge Mountains on any given day. Cars are an integral part of our society. They are opportunity. A car is freedom. A car gets us to work, gets us to the doctor, takes the kids to soccer practice. All of these things which are not possible for everybody. Now, some people can do all this. Good for them. That's great. And I think that as we go through this, we're going to see that everybody is going to have to approach this from a different way. But the car is not a luxury in our society, and it's going to continue to be a necessity for some time to come. Now, these cars may be electric, they may be hybrids, they may be hydrogen, they may be gas guzzlers, but they're still going to be a car, and we need to deal with that as we go. Now, Fairfax County, I've been here for 40 years. I love it, but we are not Manhattan, we're not London, we're not even downtown Washington. We are a mixed county. We have areas that are urban, we have areas that are very suburban, and we have different people who like to live in different areas, and that's great. And one of the things I worry about, and some of the things we've been hearing today, is that where I'm happy to have somebody decide whether they have a car or a parking space or not. But I'm concerned when I hear people that say that I should not have a parking space where I need to have it. I'm the father of 3 adult daughters now, who individually and collectively have lived in 8 or 10 apartment and townhouse communities over the past 10, 15 years. Every single one of them, parking has been a problem. So when we talk about right sizing, I'm all in favor of right sizing. But we need to look at what actually is needed by the people that live there and what they want to do. And if we do that, I think we'll be better off. I heard a lot of comments earlier, the staff, and again, I thank the staff for all the work that they have done, and you guys deserve a raise too along the way. But if they're serious, a couple times it came up about environmental issues, greenery, or affordable housing being able to take over from the space that's being developed here. Well, is that important or not? As I understand it right now, there's no guarantee that any green space or affordable housing will be developed by the current regulations that we have. If it's important, put it in there. Make it mandatory. Make it that 100% of any regained space will either be green or affordable housing. No waivers, no exceptions along the way. You might find that you get some more support if you do that. We've come up a couple times. We've heard from various NIMBYs and some other versions of that I hadn't been aware of before. Personally, I've never met a YIMBY, but I have met some YISBYs. Yes, in somebody else's backyard. So when people come up with great ideas, and we have heard a lot of them here, several of them I actually agree with or would support, but nevertheless, it's got to look at it not imposing your view, your beliefs onto somebody else to their detriment. We talked about One Fairfax. There is no doubt that the people who will be harmed by the current reduction in parking in multifamily areas are exactly the young, the elderly, blue-collar workers, minorities, recent migrants, the handicapped. Those are the people who are going to be hurt if we don't right-size properly so that we can actually deliver things to our citizens and to our servants. Now, as I said, I'm going through all this. Look, I'm a free market capitalist. I have no problem with companies making a profit, developers making a profit. But I do believe that a car is still an important part of a household. 96% of our citizens agree. And a developer has a responsibility. The responsibility is to provide a house, living areas, and appropriate parking space along the way. If we can do that, again, we will be better off. So, just to wrap up, let me just say again that if we are serious about the environment and affordable housing, put it in as mandatory into this. Secondly, let's take a look, and if right-sizing means we need to certainly go back to the 1.6, and I would say in some cases it will even be higher. And we will have a better county, and we can all live together and enjoy the different things that we do. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mr. Maupin, thank you for coming down, and you have 5 minutes. Good
Thank
evening.
you. I'm an old guy, and I'm wearing down here. My name is Gary Maupin, and I'm speaking for myself. I now live in Ruston, but since I moved to the county from Capitol Hill to Annandale in 1951, I've lived in a number of places in the county, and I feel I know it in the transportation history and the needs of the county pretty well. I've been involved in Parking Reimagined since it was established as a district representative, and I've followed the zoning ordinance modification to the point where it's extremely complicated with knowledgeable people on this from the beginning, still asking questions even the last couple of days. So I just want to set the stage for that. But I know the basic issues that we're talking about here, the concerns of so many citizens groups that you've heard from tonight that represent a lot of people. But I will also mention that I have a very high regard for the staff doing this, as they know, and the extensive work that they've done on this and the outreach that they did, which was really extensive. I have major reservations about many issues with the proposed amendment that were brought up by the Reston and the McLean Citizens Association's resolutions, and I strongly support those. But I'm going to focus on 2 critical points. First, the analysis supporting these changes is definitely not adequate to justify what is proposed before you. The analysis conducted by the support contractor looked at what other close-by jurisdictions have done regarding a host of sub-areas of off-street parking. It did not examine how successful the other jurisdictions were in making changes to their ordinance in terms of impacts on residents and businesses, or how these jurisdictions even related to Fairfax, such as Alexandria, and in more detail within the other jurisdictions. Also, the analysis did not take into consideration the different approaches used in other jurisdiction ordinances, where many focused on distance from transit while we use zoning areas. And then holding conversations with Charlotte, North Carolina as a place of comparison does not make sense to me. Additionally, because of the time we are involved in with making these kind of changes in Fairfax, it should have looked at what will be the impacts of the fallout from COVID-19 on work and the technology changes hitting us now regarding how people work and with vehicles themselves. For instance, we are on the tip of the iceberg regarding technology reducing or eliminating vehicle emissions, which will be profound. And then to also use the 2006 WMATA study and simplistic looks at 2 shopping malls and 10 multifamily developments is not sound. This does not come from my world, where I looked at an analysis as an executive for billion-dollar projects, for mid-range projects, for small projects. The analysis, it is another world from what I'm seeing here. So without a more specific and far better analysis, the changes proposed do not hold water, and these ordinance modifications should be delayed till adequate analysis work is done. Second, the amendment proposed is directly in violation of the county policy regarding equity as set forth in 1 Fairfax. I know the staff says that it's meeting the 1 Fairfax policy, but it really is not. Relying on the added space from parking to go to more space for people that are going to have affordable housing is just not valid. And so we're not adhering to the 1 Fairfax policy. It will negatively impact low-income, minority, and disabled people far more regarding the use of vehicles and getting to work. Studies and media information completely support that. Just one of many examinations and analysis of the American Community Survey by the Census Bureau for 2021 clearly points this out. The evidence from many government and other reliable sources is overwhelming. And the disparity really is self-evident, since those people are far more likely to need vehicles to meet work requirements for being at work and not working from home. So if that's indicating my time is coming up, I'll just say we're not adhering to that. I could give you all the reasons. We follow policy. I was on the Reston comprehensive plan extensively, and we followed the county policy, and you approved that last week. Thank you so much. But this really doesn't, so I'm very concerned about that. You can hear it in what I'm saying here. I think we need to make sure this is equity, supportive, and to my way of thinking, it is absolutely not.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman. Yes. Commissioner Schuman.
This is a procedural question.
Next up is Lynn Mulston, representing Reston 2020. I know you're here.
We have a winner.
Come on down.
The last person standing, I guess, is become one of them.
Are you going to do your thing, Jacob? Thank you. My notes say good evening, but I'm going to say good morning, Chairman, Commissioner Carter, other planning commissioners. My name is Lynn Mulston, and I live at 11472 Links Drive in Reston, Virginia. And this morning, I'm representing Reston 2020, which is an independent Reston Citizens Committee dedicated to sustaining Reston's quality of life through excellence in community planning, zoning, and development. Tonight, this morning, I'm going to focus on the good, the bad, and the ugly of Parking Reimagined. Let's start with the good. However impracticable as a broad brush solution might be, the Parking Reimagined proposal proposes admirable goals that we've heard. I'm not going to go through them again. We acknowledge and applaud the proposed changes to Article 6 that create broad opportunities to positively support the goals of Resilient Fairfax and the community-wide Energy and Climate Action Plan, CCAP. We agree with staff's observations that there are no environmental benefits gained from requiring more parking than necessary. Lowering of minimum parking rates results in less required impervious surface for new development and redevelopment, and reducing the footprint of parking allows more efficient use of developed land area that can create opportunities for more landscaped and open public spaces. But given this acknowledgement by staff, and while we're applying broad-brushed solutions, let's consider the bad. Parking Reimagined gives developers many financial breaks, but does nothing that guarantees sustaining or improving county residents' quality of life. All the environmental, impervious surface, and open space opportunities listed in the principles need to be translated into some gains for residents, employees, and visitors. For example, Reston 2020 proposes that for every acre of land that is converted from a parking area, 50% is eligible for development and 50% goes green and must contribute to a reduction of stormwater, such as water gardens or grassy open space. Similar offsets should be made to improve our environment, such as improving or expanding wetlands and increasing stormwater handling capabilities. A key assumption of Parking Reimagined, the growing use of public transit. Parking Reimagined allows people to travel by non-auto modes to access goods, services, and employment. Yet, the internet is increasingly enabling people to access goods, services, and employment from their homes. And there's no assurance that public transit use will markedly increase, only the dream. I'm sure you all read the article in the Washington Post. This is it was an opinion piece from the editorial board titled, "Metro's Countdown to Fiasco is Underway in the DC Area." If you haven't, I strongly urge you to read it. But in a nut, and I quote, "The system faces a shortfall of $750 million in a projected budget of $2.6 billion in the fiscal year starting next July. An unprecedented deficit that can be bridged only by a combination of service cuts and additional revenues. What is our plan B if Metro ridership continues to decrease due to the projected shortfall and service cuts?" Now, let's look at the ugly. It's not lost on us that we're seeing developers and development-driven consulting advocates from outside Fairfax County testifying to the virtues of Parking Reimagined. Yes, it does have its benefits, but only for developers. It is not ready for prime time. For example, why are staff and the consultant proposing that a variance from the zoning bylaw be handled administratively rather than a public, transparent hearing before the Board of Zoning Appeals? It appears that this is an example of Gartner Group streamlining. For variances, the state code defines variance as, in the application of a zoning ordinance, a reasonable deviation from those provisions regulating the shape, size, or area of a lot or parcel of land, or the size, height, area, bulk, or location of a building or structure, when the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, and such need for a variance would not be shared generally by other properties, and provided such variance is not contrary to the purpose of the ordinance. It shall not include a change in use, which change shall be accomplished by a rezoning or by a conditional zoning. The procedures for variances clearly state that the Board of Zoning Appeals hears variances, and there has to be advertising and a public hearing. The public hearing process could or should be avoided in Parking Reimagined or anything else through Gartner streamlining. And it would speed up things if the director could administratively approve the parking reduction quickly and quietly and skip over the unpredictable Board of Zoning Appeals. Reston 2020 requests that localities be required to have a public hearing to reduce parking at some defined threshold. So you see, from a different perspective, the good of Fairfax County residents is not the focal point of this proposal. Right now, all we see is a misplaced focus on, let's make it easier to develop as soon as possible, and let's set up processes that remove the residents from the equation. Who is going to step up and represent the residents? The residents who are working 2 jobs just to make a living, who need a car in order to get to their jobs that aren't served by public transportation for shifts outside public transportation hours. What about the elderly and disabled who rely not only on automobiles, but the accessible parking spaces. History and human behavior have shown us that these will be taken by able-bodied folks who can't find a place to park. And the reduction of loading spaces, well, we've all seen the photograph from Jim Hart of the delivery vehicle blocking access to designated accessible parking. And what about the growing family of 5 that is unlikely to walk, bike, rollerblade, or scooter to the grocery store for a week's worth of shopping? Here's one example from Reston. Supervisor Alcorn and his staff are working hard to renovate our Lake Ann Village Center. Right now, the county minimum parking requirement for multifamily housing in this area is 1.3 parking spaces per dwelling unit. Under Parking Reimagined, that would be reduced to 1.04 parking spaces per unit in this non-TSA TOD area. For the consolidated redevelopment with 935 dwelling units, as described in a Reston Now article today, it was actually yesterday, that would mean more than 1/4 fewer parking spaces required than under current minimum parking requirements, resulting in a total of 972 spaces for a population of nearly 2,000 people. If you think Reston's North Shore Drive in that area is overparked now, just wait until the new development and the reduced parking requirements kick in. It will make going to the Reston Farmers Market a nightmare. And why would anyone else visit there to shop or dine if there will be such a difficult time finding parking? Does the county expect this village center to thrive on just the additional apartments? Where is the voice of the residents represented in this proposal? Reston 2020 requests that this proposal be sent back to staff and Clarion for some much-needed reworking that takes into consideration the needs of the residents and not just the developers. Additionally, Reston 2020 requests that the written record remain open until the Planning Commission decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Sargent. You had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Mulston, just a quick question, a clarification question, because I printed off your comments earlier today.
Oh, so I corrected it. I sent it to, do you have the corrected one?
I saw the 1/3.
The 1.3, yeah, those were corrected.
Great, all right, thank you. I'll correct it here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Andy's